This is the business culture of agriculture. My name is Andy Junkin. With me tonight is Dan Purtell. He's a lawyer out of Madison, Wisconsin, who deals exclusively in estate and succession planning in the state of Wisconsin, which is obviously has a large agriculture clientele. Good, how are you tonight, Dan?
I'm doing
Could
great,
you tell
Andy.
us a bit more? Awesome. Could you tell us a bit more about your firm and about the Wilson Law Group?
Sure. So Wilson Law Group is really a boutique estate planning and business succession firm. We have 4 attorneys. 3 of us are partners, and really what we do is we help families, and farm families included, of course, work through disability, work through death concerns, make sure that if they are worried about what happens to the business or the farm at some point, that they have planning in place. And then they also know that they can come back to us on an ongoing basis to review what they've done.
And you've been doing this since 2003, and you're a board certified estate planner. So what does that mean? Certified? Like, could you explain the process, education you had to get in order to become board certified?
Absolutely. So the board certification, there's a estate planning law specialist designation, and there's the board certification. Those are both designations that are supported through the National Councils of Estate Planning. They are tested designations. So we did some study. When I say we, as myself and my 2 partners went through the process. Probably it was about 4 years ago now, and pretty strenuous test, I will say. There's a lot of very specific in the tech areas of estate planning techniques, and we're proud to say that as far as we know, we're the only from the state of Wisconsin that has all partners that are board certified as estate planning specialists. So it really was something that you had to go through that testing process, and also a pretty good level of background, and they look into what your expertise has been over the years. So something we're very proud of, but it's something that we felt was important to show our seriousness and our level of competence.
And you have a trademark program called the Our Way program. Could you explain to folks what it is that means?
Yeah, Our Way was something that actually started just prior to me coming to the firm. Wayne Wilson, who's the namesake of our law firm, really was looking at the practice of estate planning and succession planning, and seeing that it tended to be very transactional. And what that means is that attorneys drafted documents. They help people get things in place, and then what would happen is the documents would go home with the clients, or they'd be in the safe. They'd be in the safe deposit box. They'd collect dust, and then years would pass. And the average time that we're seeing between when people do planning and have it reviewed is almost 20 years. So what Wayne decided is he wanted to have a plan in place so that our clients were coming back to us at least every other year if they wanted to continue in that type of plan, which we have quite a few. And all we do for them is, well, we do several things. One is we're going to make sure that their estate planning is up to date, whether it's changes in the law, changes in their family, techniques that we come up with that we can do better. And the other parts, so that's the legal end of it. So we're going to see people, but we're also going to bring their kids in. If the kids are named as trustees, we want to make sure the kids are involved, understand what their roles are, understand what happens when mom or dad are incapacitated or then pass away. So really what we're trying to do, Andy, is we're trying to transition from the transactional side to a relationship-based practice, which is not common among attorneys, but we feel that it's going to be the future of the practice of law.
Okay. And you do both estate planning and succession planning. Can you explain to folks what's the difference for family farm? What does that mean?
Right. I think that when we sit down and we meet with a family who are operating a farm, the first thing we want to talk about is estate planning. And the reason for that is the estate plan tends to be the foundation. And what we're talking about with estate planning is the basics of who's going to make decisions during incapacity. Yes, we'll get into maybe who will continue to be the operator of the farm if mom and dad can't do it, but it is a more general discussion. We talk about who gets what. If we don't get to succession planning, then we have to have a fallback as to who gets what in the estate plan. Because the succession planning can take several years to get moving and in place, We need to have the estate planning as the fallback, even to cover situations like estate taxes, to cover things like long-term care concerns, what happens if mom or dad go to the nursing home, and making that decision in that interim part before we get to succession planning about what's fair, usually not what's equal, what's fair as assets go from one generation to the next. So estate planning tends to be more on the foundational side of let's have a plan and have a lot of what ifs. The business succession side in our world is now we're going to start looking very practically at what does it mean for mom and dad. If we use the typical situation, mom and dad own the farm, they've run the farm. How are we going to have them start to step away in favor of the next generation, whether that be one child or several? And how then do we not only design a plan for them, but how do we implement that plan? So usually in that process, we're going to start actually transferring assets, start having mom and dad step away in favor of the kids coming in to take over.
Okay. And could you explain a bit more in detail what it is you do for succession planning? How do you work with a family I mean, let's say you have a successor, a son or daughter that's in their mid-30s, and their mom and dad, they're thinking about stepping away from the operation, but there's some hesitation there for different reasons. How do you start working with that family, and what kind of time frame is it for you to get them from where they're at to where they need to be? And what's your starting point and what's your end point within most family farms? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I think we just froze. Dan, can you hear me now? Dan, can you hear me now? That's awesome. Well, that's the glory of live TV.